Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
And now chapter 33, Vidyadhara liberated and the demon Shankhasura killed. Once upon a time, the cowherd men of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, desired to go to Amaban to perform the Shivaratri performance. The Ras Leela was performed during the autumn, and after that, the next big ceremony is Holi, or the Dolayatra ceremony. Between the Dolayatra ceremony and the Ras Leela ceremony, there is one important ceremony called Shivaratri, which is especially observed by the Shaivites, or devotees of Lord Shiva. But sometimes the Vaishnavas also observe this ceremony because they accept Lord Shiva as the foremost Vaishnava. But the function of Shivaratri is not observed very regularly by the Bhaktas, or devotees of Krishna. Under the circumstances, it is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that the cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, once upon a time desired. That means that they were not regularly observing the Shivaratri function, but that once upon a time they wanted to go to Amaban out of curiosity. Amaban is situated somewhere in the Gujarat province. Amaban is said to be situated on the river Sarasvati, yet we do not find any Sarasvati river in the Gujarat province. The only river there is Sarvamati. In India, all the big places of pilgrimage are situated on nice rivers like the Ganges, Yamuna, Sarasvati, Narmada, Godavari, and Kaveri. Amaban was situated on the bank of the Sarasvati, and all the cowherd men and Nanda Maharaj went there. They devotedly began to worship the deity of Lord Shiva and Ambika. It is the general practice that wherever there is a temple of Lord Shiva, there must be another temple of Ambika, or Durga, because Ambika is the wife of Lord Shiva and is the most exalted of chaste women. She doesn't live outside the association of her husband. After reaching Amaban, the cowherd men of Vrindavan first bathed themselves in the river Sarasvati. If one goes to any place of pilgrimage, his first duty is to take a bath and sometimes to shave his head. That is the first business. After taking bath, they worship the deities and then distribute a charity in the holy places. According to the Vedic system, charity is given to the Brahmins. It is stated in the Vedic Shastras that only the Brahmins and the sannyasis can accept charity. The cowherd men from Vrindavan gave cows decorated with golden ornaments and beautiful garlands. The Brahmins are given charity because they are not engaged in any business profession. They are supposed to be engaged in Brahminical occupations, as described in the Bhagavad Gita. Namely, they must be very learned and must perform austerity and penances. Not only must they themselves be learned, but they must also teach others. Brahmins are not meant to be Brahmins alone. They should create other Brahmins also. If a man is found who agrees to become a Brahmin's disciple, he is also given the chance to become a Brahmin. The Brahmin is always engaged in the worship of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, the Brahmins are eligible to accept all kinds of charity. But if the Brahmins receive excess charity, they are to distribute it for the service of Vishnu. In the Vedic scripture, therefore, one is recommended to give charity to the Brahmins, and by so doing, one pleases Lord Vishnu and all the demigods. The pilgrims take bath, worship the deity, and give charity. They are also recommended to fast 1 day. They should go to a place of pilgrimage and stay there at least for 3 days. The first day is spent fasting, and at night they can drink a little water because water does not break the fast. The cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, spent that night on the bank of the Sarasvati. They fasted all day and drank a little water at night. But while they were taking rest, a great serpent from the nearby forest appeared before them and hungrily began to swallow up Nanda Maharaj. Nanda began to cry helplessly, "My dear son Krishna, please come and save me from this danger. This serpent is swallowing me." When Nanda Maharaj cried for help, all the cowherd men got up and saw what was happening. They immediately took up burning logs and began to beat the snake to kill it. But in spite of being beaten with burning logs, the serpent was not about to give up swallowing Nanda Maharaj. At that time, Krishna appeared on the scene and touched the serpent with his lotus feet. Immediately, upon being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, the serpent shed its reptilian body and appeared as a very beautiful demigod named Vidyadhara. His bodily features were so beautiful that he appeared to be worshipable. There was a luster and effulgence emanating from his body, and he was garlanded with a gold necklace. He offered obeisances to Lord Krishna and stood before him with great humility. Krishna then asked the demigod, "You appear to be a very nice demigod and to be favored by the goddess of fortune. How is it that you perform such abominable activities? And how did you get the body of a serpent?" The demigod then began to narrate the story of his previous life. "My dear Lord," he said, "in my previous life I was named Vidyadhara and was known all over the world for my beauty. Because I was a celebrated personality, I used to travel all over in my airplane. While traveling, I saw a great sage named Angira. He was very ugly, and because I was very proud of my beauty, I laughed at him. Due to this sinful action, I was condemned by the great sage to assume the form of a serpent." One should note here that before being favored by Krishna, a person is always under the modes of material nature, however elevated he may be materially. Vidyadhara was a materially elevated demigod, and he was very beautiful. He also held a great material position and was able to travel all over by airplane. Yet he was condemned to become a serpent in his next life. Any materially elevated person can be condemned to an abominable species of life if he is not careful. It is a misconception that after reaching the human body, one is never degraded. Vidyadhara himself states that even though he was a demigod, he was condemned to become a serpent. But because he was touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, he immediately came to Krishna consciousness. He admitted, however, that in his previous life he was actually sinful. A Krishna-conscious person knows that he is always the servant of Krishna. He is most insignificant, and whatever good he does is by the grace of Krishna and the spiritual master. The demigod Vidyadhara continued to speak to Sri Krishna. "Because I was very proud of the exquisite beauty of my body," he said, "I derided the ugly features of the great sage Angira. He cursed me for my sin, and I became a snake. Now I consider that this curse by the sage was not at all a curse. It was a great benediction for me. Had he not cursed me, I would not have assumed the body of a serpent, and would not have been kicked by your lotus feet, and thus freed from all material contamination. In material existence, 4 things are very valuable: to be born in a decent family, to be very rich, to be very learned, and to be very beautiful. These are considered to be material assets. Unfortunately, without Krishna consciousness, these material assets sometimes become sources of sin and degradation. Despite Vidyadhara's being a demigod and having a beautiful body, he was condemned to the body of a snake due to pride. A snake is considered to be the most cruel and envious living entity. But those who are human beings and are envious of others are considered to be even more vicious than snakes. The snake can be subdued or controlled by charming mantras and herbs, but a person who is envious cannot be controlled by anyone. My dear Lord, Vidyadhara continued, now, since I think I have become freed from all kinds of sinful activities, I am asking your permission to return to my abode, the heavenly planet. This request indicates that persons who are attached to fruitive activities, desiring promotion to the comforts of higher planetary systems, cannot achieve the ultimate goal of life without the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the less intelligent want to achieve material benefits and therefore worship different kinds of demigods, but they actually get the benediction from the demigods through the permission of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Demigods have no power to bestow material profit. Even if one is attached to material benediction, he can worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and ask Him. Krishna is completely able to give even material benediction. There is a difference, however, between asking for material benediction from the demigods and from Krishna. Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead for material benediction. But when he actually achieved the favor of the Supreme Lord and saw Him, he was so satisfied that he refused to accept any material benediction. The intelligent person does not ask favors from or worship the demigods. He directly becomes Krishna conscious, and if he has any desire for material benefit, he asks Krishna, not the demigods. Vidyadhara, awaiting permission of Krishna to return to the heavenly planets, said, now, because I am touched by your lotus feet, I am relieved of all kinds of material pangs. You are the most powerful of all mystics. You are the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the master of all the devotees. You are the provider of the planetary systems, and therefore I am asking your permission. You may accept me as fully surrendered unto you. I know very well that persons who are constantly engaged in chanting your holy name attain release from all sinful reactions, and certainly persons who are fortunate enough to be personally touched by your lotus feet are freed. Therefore, I am sure that I am now relieved of the curse of the Brahmin simply by being touched by your lotus feet. In this way, Vidyadhara got permission from Lord Krishna to return to his home in the higher planetary system. After receiving this honor, he began to circumambulate the Lord, and after offering his respectful obeisances unto him, he returned to his heavenly planet. Thus Nanda Maharaj also became relieved of the imminent danger of being devoured by the snake. The cowherd men who had come to execute the ritualistic function of worshipping Lord Shiva and Ambika finished their business and prepared to return to Vrindavan. While returning, they recalled the wonderful activities of Krishna. By relating the incident of Vidyadhara's deliverance, they became more attached to Krishna. They had come to worship Lord Shiva and Ambika, but they became more and more attached to Krishna. Similarly, the gopis also worshipped goddess Katyayani to become more and more attached to Krishna. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that persons who are attached to worshipping demigods like Lord Brahma, Shiva, Indra and Chandra for some personal benefit are less intelligent and have forgotten the real purpose of life. But the cowherd men, inhabitants of Vrindavan, were no ordinary men. Whatever they did for Krishna. If one worships demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to become more attached to Krishna, that is approved. But if one goes to the demigods for some personal benefit, that is condemned. After this incident, on a very pleasant night, both Krishna and his elder brother Balaram, who are inconceivably powerful, went into the forest of Vrindavan. They were accompanied by the damsels of Brajabhumi, and they began to enjoy each other's company. The young damsels of Vraja were very nicely dressed and anointed with pulp of sandalwood and decorated with flowers. The moon was shining in the sky, surrounded by glittering stars. The breeze was blowing, bearing the aroma of malika flowers, and the bumblebees were mad after the aroma. Taking advantage of the pleasing atmosphere, both Krishna and Balaram began to sing very melodiously. The damsels became so absorbed in their rhythmical song that they almost forgot themselves. Their hair loosened, their dresses slackened, and their garlands began to fall to the ground. At that time, while they were so much absorbed, almost in madness, a demon associate of Kuvera, the treasurer of the heavenly planets, appeared on the scene. The demon's name was Shankhasura, because on his head there was a valuable jewel resembling a conch shell. Just as the two sons of Kuvera were puffed up over their wealth and opulence and did not care for Narada Muni's presence, this Shankhasura was also puffed up over material opulence. He thought that Krishna and Balaram were two ordinary cowherd boys enjoying the company of many beautiful girls. Generally, in the material world, a person with riches thinks that all beautiful women should be enjoyed by him. Shankhasura also thought that since he belonged to the rich community of Kuvera, he, not Krishna and Balaram, should enjoy the company of so many beautiful girls. He therefore decided to take charge of them. He appeared before Krishna and Balaram and the damsels of Vraja, and began to lead the girls away to the north. He commanded them as if he were their proprietor and husband, despite the presence of Krishna and Balaram. Being forcibly taken away by Shankhasura, the damsels of Vraja began to call the names of Krishna and Balaram for protection. The two brothers immediately began to follow them, taking up big logs in their hands. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid," they called to the gopis. "We are coming at once to chastise this demon." Very quickly they reached Shankhasura. Thinking the brothers too powerful, Shankhasura left the company of the gopis and ran for fear of his life. But Krishna would not let him go. He entrusted the gopis to the care of Balaram and followed Shankhasura wherever he fled. Krishna wanted to take the valuable jewel resembling a conch shell from the head of the demon. After following him a very short distance, Krishna caught him, struck his head with his fist, and killed him. He then took the valuable jewel and returned. In the presence of all the damsels of Braja, he presented the valuable jewel to his elder brother Balaram. Thus ends the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of the 33rd chapter of Krishna. Vidyadhara liberated and the demon Shankhasura killed.